Good evening. You're watching the late news on HKIBC. I'm Joanna Ho. Here are tonight's top stories. Britain says a final farewell to Queen Elizabeth. China responds angrily to Joe Biden's latest statement on Taiwan. And Hong Kong public hospitals adjust services for non-COVID patients as infections decline. The coffin of Britain's Queen Elizabeth has arrived at Windsor Castle and is heading to a chapel for a committal service ahead of her burial. The coffin will be placed at the catafalque. David Connor, the Dean of Windsor, will be conducting the service, which will also feature the chapel choir. There will be more prayers for Elizabeth before her coffin is lowered into the royal vault. A private burial service will follow, attended by her son, King Charles, and members of the royal family. Elizabeth will be laid to rest alongside her husband, Prince Philip, who died last year, and her parents at the King George VI Memorial Chapel. The Queen died 11 days ago at the age of 96. She was Britain's longest-serving monarch and ruled for 70 years. Earlier, a state funeral was held for the Queen at Westminster Abbey in London. It was attended by world leaders and royals from overseas, Sachin Cafe reports.
When Queen Elizabeth's lying in state ended, pallbearers carried her coffin out of Westminster Hall and laid it onto the state gun carriage. Led by the Scottish and Irish regiments and brigades of the Gurkhas and Royal Air Force, the gun carriage drawn by members of the Royal Navy began its journey to Westminster Abbey. King Charles followed the coffin with his siblings Princess Anne, Prince Andrew, Prince Edward, and his sons William and Harry. Dignitaries gathered at the Abbey, including US President Joe Biden, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and French President Emmanuel Macron, and royals from around the world. Westminster Abbey was where the Queen got married and was crowned.
People of loving service are rare in any walk of life. Leaders of loving service are still rarer. But in all cases, those who serve will be loved and remembered when those who cling to power and privileges are long forgotten.
The last post sounded marked the end of the service, followed by 2 minutes of silence across Britain. And then began the final journey of the longest reigning female monarch in history to her final resting place at Windsor Castle. The coffin was once again placed on the state gun carriage. Tens of thousands of people lined the streets to pay their last respects as the procession made its way through London. At Wellington Arch, the coffin was transferred to the State Hearse for the journey to Windsor Castle. Sachin Katpi, HKIBC.
Before the funeral, hundreds of thousands of people had filed past the Queen's coffin during her lying in state. The long line of mourners waiting to pay respects to the monarch thinned out as stewards closed the queue on Sunday night local time. These people were in the final group to file past the Queen's coffin during the 4-day lying in state. Chrissy Heery was the last member of the public to leave Westminster Hall.
Yeah, it is an honour. I am currently serving with the Royal Air Force, so to be able to do that on behalf of the Royal Air Force and a female to an amazing lady that will never be replaced, it was an honour.
Heery was among those who thronged the streets around Westminster Hall in the past 4 days. Some had to wait in the bitter cold for up to 24 hours when the queue was 16 kilometers long.
It was very atmospheric, very solemn. Everyone was quiet, of course, and obviously, having spent so long in the queue, we had met friends and had jokes, and so it's a bit of a contrast.
The people who were in the queue behind us, we just all hugged when we came out. So the whole episode, from it's so well organised, all the security guards and everyone are just so friendly.
Last night at 8 p.m., a moment of silence was held throughout Britain. British Prime Minister Liz Truss and her husband paid tribute outside 10 Downing Street. In Hong Kong, hundreds of people paid tribute to the Queen outside the British Consulate General during her funeral service. Bouquets, candles, as well as photos of Elizabeth filled the area outside the diplomatic mission in Admiralty this evening. Cards and paintings dedicated to the Queen were also stuck on the pillars. China has lashed out after U.S. President Joe Biden said American troops would defend Taiwan should Beijing invade the island. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning said China will take all measures against any attempt to split the nation. She added that Beijing deplored Biden's statement. The White House scrambled to come up with a clarification, saying the One China policy has not changed. But the president's comments appear to contradict Washington's strategic ambiguity stance, in which it does not commit to defending Taiwan, while also not ruling out a military option. COVID cases in Hong Kong have continued to decline, falling below 7,000 today. This has allowed health officials to readjust services for non-COVID patients. Janice Low reports.
There were 6,260 new COVID infections. All but 174 were local. Today's figure was the lowest in a month. 10 people died from the virus. Hospitals admitted another 233 COVID patients, taking the tally to 2,647. As infections slide, health authorities have made service adjustments.
We have observed that in the past few days in terms of number of hospital admissions and also the bed utilization rate, as well as infection rates of our colleague, there is a downward trend. In terms of non-COVID patients' medical needs, especially non-urgent operations or checkups, which we have truncated before, we are already readjusting these services.
All classes at the Fanling Assemblies of God Kindergarten have been ordered to suspend in-person teaching for a week after 23 students and 6 staff members fell ill. Janice Low, HKIBC.
A sports group is trying to ensure that Hong Kong will host a World Dragon Boat competition in 5 years' time. This comes as the sports commissioner questioned the decision to cancel the Hong Kong Marathon. Macy Mock reports.
The Hong Kong Marathon, scheduled for late November, was called off after the organizers said there was insufficient time to prepare because the government had not given its approval. But Sports Commissioner Yuan Tuk-keung asked why the events couldn't be arranged in 2 months. He noted that last year's marathon went ahead after receiving the green lights 2 months before the race. When questioned why the government couldn't give its approval last week, Yuan said the proposed number of participants was double last year's, while COVID cases were higher this year. He said the organizers had been told that a decision would be made soon. Yuan also said they had considered postponing the marathon to February, when they could include Victoria Park in the route. He added that officials will continue to offer support if the marathon is revived or postponed. Meanwhile, the Hong Kong-China Dragon Boat Association will apply to host World Championships in 2027. Next year's event was due to be held in Hong Kong, but the organizers switched the venue to Thailand because of the SAR's strict quarantine measures. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
The chairman of the Hong Kong Journalists Association has been charged with obstructing a police officer. Ronson Chen was stopped by officers 2 weeks ago while reporting at the Macpherson Playground in Mong Kok and accused of not showing his identity card. He will appear in West Kowloon Magistracy on Thursday. Chen said this might jeopardize his plan to travel to Britain next week for a fellowship program at Oxford University. Hong Kong's only drinks carton recycling plant is set to close by the end of the year. Mill will vacate its premises in Yuen Long after the Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks Corporation refused to renew its lease. Since it started operations 3 years ago, the firm has recycled 3 tons of drink cartons a day and exported the recycled products to paper mills in Southeast Asia. The factory is seeking help from the Environmental Protection Department and the corporation, which hinted of a grace period. Parents are spending more on school fees in the current academic year. The Education Bureau approved applications to increase fees from over half of the direct subsidy schools, the highest number since the pandemic began more than 2 years ago. But bids by 2 international schools were rejected. Direct subsidy schools, as well as private and international institutions, have raised fees by an average of at least 2% for the current academic year, which began earlier this month. Aftershocks have continued to rock Taiwan after a major earthquake yesterday. At least 1 person was killed and more than 100 were injured, Joanna Ho reports.
By noon today, Taiwan was hit by 76 aftershocks, a day after an earthquake with a magnitude of 6.8 rattled Taitung County in the southeast. The tremor injured at least 140 people and killed a worker in Hualien City. The man was carrying out demolition work in a concrete factory and was unable to escape when the quake toppled the building. A 3-story building collapsed in a nearby town. 4 people living above a convenience store were trapped. Firefighters used excavators to clear the rubble before they were able to rescue the residents. As the building crumbled, it tore down electricity wires, causing a power outage for over 7,000 households. A woman who was stuck in her vehicle when the structure collapsed managed to get out with the help of citizens nearby. The quake also damaged roads, hindering search and rescue operations. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
At least 9 million people were ordered to evacuate as southern Japan was battered by one of the most powerful storms to hit the country. Super Typhoon Nanmadol has already killed 2 people and injured 90 on the southern island of Kyushu. Transport ground to a halt, with flights, ferries, and train services all suspended. Officials have issued flood and landslide alerts. The storm is forecast to lash Japan's main island of Honshu before moving out to sea in the next 2 days. The Hang Seng Index has dropped 1%, falling to a 6-month low. The losers included mainland video platform Bilibili, which plunged 5.6%. Alibaba sank to its lowest in 3 months after surrendering 3.6%. Retail and travel stocks were boosted by signals that hotel quarantine for arrivals is on the way out. Chow Tai Fook Jewelry jumped 6.2%, while Cathay Pacific rose 1%. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index closed down 195 points. To the top 10 active stocks, Tracker Fund down 21 cents, Tencent down $4.20. JD.com down $5.60, Kuaishou down 65 cents. To the Forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, euros at 7.85, pounds at 8.96, and Australian dollar at 5.26. Over to the U.S. market, Dow Jones is up 58 points, S&P 500 is up 6 points. In tennis, there was an upset in the Slovenia Open where Wimbledon champion Elena Rybakina was beaten in the final by doubles world number 1 Katerina Siniakova. Rybakina of Kazakhstan took the opening set 7-6 in a tie break, but her Czech opponent leveled the tie by winning the second with the same margin. After a grueling 3 hours, Rybakina's long forehand gave Siniakova her first singles victory in 5 years. Siniakova has had a fantastic year as a doubles player, winning the Australian and US Opens as well as Wimbledon. History was made in the Japanese league when Yoshimi Yamashita became the first female to referee a top division match. She took charge of the match between Yokohama FC and Tegevajaro Miyazaki in front of 50,000 fans at the National Stadium in Tokyo. The 36-year-old is one of 3 women picked by FIFA to officiate at this year's Men's World Cup in Qatar. Yamashita took charge of matches in the Asian Champions League and the Tokyo Olympics last year. On to the weather now. Expect sunny intervals and showers tomorrow after some thunderstorms at first. The temperature will range from 27 to 31 degrees. It will remain sunny until the weekend. That's all the news for Monday. Thanks for watching HKIBC. I'm Joanna Ho. Good night.